Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, yes, it's got to do with the Rivers State House of Assembly, the National Assembly, and the law. Well, yes, we're going to lump all of them together and see how do we get a solution to this quagmire. Well, we do have this report for you from the National Assembly. All right, then we'll go to move on. We'll get that to you when it is ready. Well, Dr. Abiola Sanni joins us this morning. He's of the Faculty of Law, University of Lagos. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Well, yes, indeed, the whole country is aware of how all of this is unfolding. In fact, this morning we see in The Guardian fresh outrage about this matter. But you've also seen this matter, and initially they talk about it from the point of law. What can you tell us about this?
Well, I'm happy you used the word unfolding because this is just starting. We don't really know where it is going. From the point of law, I'm particularly concerned about the breakdown of law and order because I say this should worry everybody, not only lawyers, because we have a situation where institutions are failing, officers are failing to perform their duties, and we seem to be very helpless. So what everybody is resorting to right now is rule of force. Everybody is trying to gain access to power at all costs, not minding the provisions of the law. People that are vested with the power are refusing to exercise the power. And I'm worried as a lawyer about all this. Okay. And we need to carefully look at what the National Assembly is seeking to do and interrogate whether they indeed, whether they have done the right thing, whether the House of Assembly has appropriately acted in this circumstance.
Okay. Well, historians say you know what a man can do by what is done before, but let's cast our mind back to the National Assembly and see what they've done before, perhaps with respect to what could they possibly do ahead of time.
Case of igniting fresh fire while attempting to put off an existing one. Ripples of the crisis in the Rivers State House of Assembly threw lawmakers into an unenvisaged rowdy session. The federal lawmaker from Rivers State, Senator Magnus Abi, raised the point of order, drawing the attention of the Senate to the crisis rocking the Rivers State House of Assembly.
Clearly, what is happening in Rivers State is an embarrassment to legislators across the length and breadth of this country.
The Senate leader then read several recommendations.
That in the interim, this distinguished Senate resolves that in the interim, all parties to the crisis maintain the peace and status quo and refrain from any action capable of jeopardizing the security of lives and property in Rivers State.
Trouble, however, started when the last recommendation was read.
This distinguished Senate further resolves that the Inspector General of Police should take immediate steps to address the issue of the broken relationship between the Governor of Rivers State and the State Commissioner of Police.
It appeared that lawmakers wanted the outright removal of the Rivers State Police Commissioner, Joseph Mbu. And when Senator David Mark put the question for the last recommendation,
those in favor of Resolution 5 say aye. Aye. Against say nay.
Nay. Lawmakers were sharply divided and the Senate chamber became rowdy. The Senate President tried to restore order and put the question again. But a lawmaker, Senator Babajide Omoworare, contested the decision of a Senate President.
And I'm of the perspective that the nays have it. And therefore, sir, with extreme respect to your person and your position, ask for a division.
For the first time in the 7th Senate, lawmakers went into a division. One by one, they voted.
I vote nay.
Yes.
When the result was read, those who lost did not hide their disappointment.
Nays 47, ayes 50. Settle down. I think if you have any other result, that your own cannot be valid. This is the authentic result.
But a lawmaker who did not wish to be named told Channels Television that at the closed-door meeting earlier, lawmakers had agreed to pass a resolution asking the Inspector General of Police to remove the Rivers State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Joseph Mbu. He alleged that the resolution read was a watered-down version of what was agreed at the closed session. But some have asked, does the National Assembly have the powers to ask for the removal of a state commissioner of police, since the Inspector General of Police does not take orders from the National Assembly? In the interim, the Senate directed its Committee on States and Local Government to investigate the crisis rocking the Rivers State House of Assembly and report back in 1 week. From the National Assembly, Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
Well, there are actually two. This one was from the Senate. There's also that resolution from the House of Representatives who, well, yes, deliberated on the matter. Let's see how it turned out. Okay, so I guess we'll get that report subsequently, but we've seen that of the Senate and how they eventually voted. There was a division to say how close it was, because the Senate President looks a bit taken aback when the voice votes came through. But at the moment, the Senate, I think it's National Assembly Committee, the Senate Committee is in Port Harcourt. They're listening to all the parties to see how all of
which is very fantastic. As a matter of fact, I commend the intervention of Senate in this regard, and it's a demonstration of the utility of checks and balances in our system. Because if not for the Senate, we would have been in trouble because of the way and manner that the House of Representatives waded into the matter. If you look at some of these issues, they require investigation, they require fact-finding, and they require objective tests in the analysis. So they need to know what is on ground. You can't begin a debate and within 1.5 hours come to a conclusion whether the power under Section 11(4) should be exercised. It cannot. It has to build up, and there must be empirical basis for whatever decision they are going to take. So I commend the leadership of the Senate, particularly for acceding to the request that there should be a counting of votes, because this is a very important matter. It's not a question of A's have it or Nays have it. We should know where each legislator stands on this issue for posterity, so that we'll be able to actually finger them in future and pin them to their specific position. So it's not a question of somebody hiding under the rowdiness of the House to say that I'm in support or I'm against. So I commend them.
Let's quickly look at, what transpired there, because before they went into that vote, our correspondent reported that there had been a closed-door session where they had resolved that they were going to ask that the Commissioner of Police be removed, but at the end of the day, what was read was a watered-down version. Perhaps that's why the nays seemed to be louder. Seemed is a key word there. Although eventually, when it was put to a vote, it would seem that the ayes, it came out that the ayes had it. Do you think that the Senate, assuming they had gone with that earlier motion, do you think it would have stood?
You see, when the Senate is also seeking to exercise its power, it should be well guided. I mean, because the Senate is established by law and by the Constitution. So I cannot see in the Constitution where such a power is vested on the Senate. So the Senate cannot seek to exercise that type of drastic power without some members genuinely feeling that that should not be done. So in this regard, you expect some members to say no. And this is not to say that they are correct. But at the end of the day, in my view, what seems to be very important is that the Senate President conceded to the request that this should not be a matter for voice vote, and that they should go into counting. And this is like election. So unless we have reasons to believe that the process of actually counting is not credible, I think that the majority should have its way.
Because, I mean, eventually, yes, they went to that counting and that result came through and they've gone. But I guess when that committee returns to the Senate, they take a look at those issues. Who knows what kind of debate it will eventually generate. But let's flip now to the House of Representatives and take a look at how they went about their own deliberations and what they arrived at.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the Commissioner of Police, aided by his command, has made the House of Assembly of Rivers State to be unable to function. And therefore, we must exercise our responsibilities. And the state has no quarrel with other security agencies, only the police. And we must act, Mr. Speaker.
That since the police has become an instrument in this matter, since the police has shown that they're clearly compromised and then are partisan in this issue, since the police has shown that they can compromise the security of certain individuals and certain groups to the benefit of the other, and since I know that the police commissioner reports to people, that there's also a political authority that also the police reports to, I would say that we go further than that to invite the Inspector General of Police to appear before this House tomorrow, so that what action will be taken, we can discuss this matter tomorrow, and questions will be put to him so that we can take urgent action, because I don't think these appeals are working.
And Mr. Speaker, I saw a policeman who got on, who was kicking somebody on the floor. He did that almost for a couple of seconds. There was a gentleman in white who took something looked like a tripod and was hitting another colleague on the head. And that one held his head, blood was all over his head. And we're all watching. Mr. Speaker, I think whatever we do, whether the CP is going to go or not, those three people that we saw live, it's all over channel, it's all over YouTube, that were involved in that brawl must be sanctioned immediately. There was a policeman in uniform. I don't care whose side he belonged to, whether it was somebody's ADC or not, he should be summarily dismissed from the force. And secondly, the other gentleman who wore a white dress and was beating the other person with a tripod must be dealt with. He's a parliamentarian and it must be dealt with, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, today what we're doing is saving our country's democracy. We cannot sit there and say it cannot happen again. If anything happens to this democracy, this parliament will go, and that should not happen.
Okay then, there you have that, the deliberated, and then some, eventually they went to vote, and 18, I think, out of 2 had it, and so they resolved there and then that the House of Reps should just take over those functions. But you got an issue with that. They say they're not able to sit, and that's why the House of Reps had to take over.
Well, one of the honorable rightly identified the problem. The problem is not the inability of the House to sit. They actually sat even after the entire fracas ended, at least by what I read in the newspaper. So I think the problem is those who are frustrating the House from sitting. What we have seen in the paper is that a minority of 5 is seeking to hijack the entire process and impeach a speaker who is being supported by about 25 members. So if the crisis is orchestrated and the source is identifiable, in a system where the institutions are working and strong, where the police is very objective and is doing its job, they should have gone after these characters and bring them to justice by now. Because if you have a situation where one person in a committee of 30 brings a gun or a dynamite and say, unless you do it according to my wishes, I will not allow you to function. Are we going to say that in that circumstances, the House is unable to sit? The right thing is to let the Commissioner of Police perform his function. And if he's not able to do this, whoever is responsible should do something. But we all know why we are in this situation. Because those who are supposed to exercise certain functions have not been able to do it because of some private reasons. So all the things that are unfolding, in my view, are not motivated by public interest.
The question many will ask is, should something have been done? I mean, there are those who believe that this whole thing is a product of the disagreement between the governor and the Commissioner of Police that he had been complaining since. Should something have been done about that before now?
Well, we don't know the personal grievances between them because we are not parties to all this. The Commissioner of Police had said certain things about the governor. He said he's too tyrannical, but he had not given us the facts. And if these facts are not in the public domain, we will not know. Some of the governors can be overbearing, I admit, but we do not know. But as far as we know, as public analysts, the Commissioner of Police has responsibility under the law. And a situation where the facts on ground seem to be confirming the dereliction on his part, I think is condemnable. If we want to be objective, we will know that we are all unsafe if persons, institutions vested with power fail to exercise them.
So can a sitting governor demand the removal of a police
Is
commissioner?
the chief security officer. Maybe he cannot demand for the removal of the commissioner of police on the pages of the newspaper. For example, if there had not been problem between the governor and PDP on one hand, or between the governor and the president on one hand, you won't hear about all this, and the commissioner of police will be redeployed. Because the commissioner is the chief security officer. He doesn't control the police. And I believe this is meant to serve as check on the exercise of his own power.
Governor.
Exactly.
But okay, there was when a reporter in the Senate said something in her closing statement. She said the Senate cannot order the IGP.
Certainly, they cannot.
Can they appeal to him?
You see, there are processes